Alright class, here we're going to go ahead and do the rotoscoping demonstration. We're going to have probably split this in two parts because I'm going to go ahead and show you the old school way of doing things, and then we'll move on to the more modern roto brush technique. So here I have a clip of a gentleman in a hat overlooking a bay, it looks like here. And we are going to work on cutting him out of that backdrop. Let's say we wanted to replace the background and have him somewhere else. Maybe he's overlooking a desert scene or a cliff or something else like that. So to do so, what we're going to do is, again, we'll bring in the video file as a composition, and we're going to start off with using the pen tool. Now this is going to be, unfortunately, not the funnest thing to do. But you know, it is one of the steps that all VFX artists has to go through, and anyone learning this stuff you end up kind of doing anyways, is basically drawing around the character here as you go, and you know, making sure you cover and get each one of these node points to wrap around him. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And again, one of the things to think about though too is the number of vertexes that you create, these nodes and curves and things like that. Each one that you create will have to be animated. So the less that you can create during the course of this, the better. You know, if you can minimize the number that you have to create, the less you have to animate. So that's a good way of thinking about it, making it less work on you in the long run. And what I may do at this point is I'll probably speed up the video or you know, just cut through to showing you kind of the result of my pen tool here. Now, one of the things is if you click off and go back to move a vertex or something like that, you will need to click on the last node that you had up to start the pen tool again. So like in that case, I'll come over here and select this guy, and it'll keep drawing from that point. Now, one of the things we'll know that I'll note too is, you know, the footage that I'm working with here is not the best footage. They are, even though they're listed as 1080p, you can tell they're heavily compressed. Now, again, one of the things you may end up dealing with footage like this that's coming from, you know, a cell phone camera or you know, a lower grade camera. So it's helpful to know. You know, learn to deal with footage like this, especially if you're going to work as a VFX artist. But you know, you would obviously, in a professional world, you would want, you know, your footage as high of quality as possible. You know, with less, you know, no compression or little compression on each clip, so that, you know, this rotoscoping would come out nice and clean looking. You wouldn't have any issues drawing around an object or something like that. So, and one of the things too is sometimes you know, when I do this, I kind of just get a quick line set up. I'm not going to be too much of a perfectionist about this. Excuse me there. As I go, you know, through this, because I can go back and change these things as I go. If I notice I'm clipping somewhere, or you know, I'm off a little bit, I can come back, and then usually I just kind of come down and do something like that. Now, as you'll notice, I have my guy cut out. You'll see some spots here that need to be cleaned up a little bit, and the edges are a little crisp. But those are things that we are going to work on as we go forward. what you'll notice is that once we've done that, and again, when you select your pen tool, you want to make sure that you are on your footage. With the footage selected, that'll create a mask versus creating a shape that overlays that footage. So again, dropping down the footage here, the source information, you'll have a mask that is created by that. That mask path is what we're going to want to animate, because again, if we don't turn on those animate keyframes, the mask just stays exactly where it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit that stopwatch here, and we're going to come in and animate this mask and get things kind of working here for us. Each one of these vertexes you'll want to be able to move. What I'm going to do, just out of quickness and speed, I like to work with mine, is highlighting the mask path and then moving my mask to try to find the best spot for it. It's not going to line up because again we have to move a lot more, but that animation might be that quick and dirty kind of method might be close and help kind of move some of those where you're only having to come in and move a couple. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in here, and what I like to do is make sure you select inside the mask, which will de-highlight the whole mask as a whole, and you can get in and start moving each vertex by itself and checking to make sure they cover the spots that are revealed from behind that we need to come in here and clean up. So again, this is not the most fun technique, but it is still in use today, and it's still something that is done, especially when clips can't be easily automated with the rotor brush tool, or it's you really need something specifically cut out, and the automated tools just don't work like they should. That's one of the things that no matter what they add in advancements, there's still room for a lot of improvement, and a lot of tools that just don't cut it yet. So we are stuck sometimes making sure we get this done the old school way. Now, if you could imagine doing something like this with old school film, where you're having to literally cut it out or paint around a piece of celluloid for each frame to get that mask working, can be very tedious. The benefit here we have, at least with the software, is we don't have to touch each and every single frame. We can work in a little bit faster by it tweening between those frames and automating a little bit of this process here. So that's a nice feature we have, at least. And again, some of the stuff might look a little harsh on the vertexes, but what we're going to do is we'll soften this stuff out with some feathering in the mask itself, which will help cut down on that really crisp, firm edge, because as you notice, even in this clip alone, you don't have rough square edges. There's that pixel blending. This clip itself is probably going to be an 8-bit 420 clip that was filmed on a cell phone or a DSLR or something like that. So it doesn't have the widest of bit depth for us to work with here. So that's one thing, again, part of that research phase that you'll want to pay attention to, is knowing what each item was shot on, or if you're helping out planning a production, to plan in advance what camera is going to be best used for what you're doing. Again, a lot of Hollywood movies and things like that, they have those planning and discussion phases in that research phase. There's the high-speed cameras and things like that, if they know they're going to be doing high-speed shots where they need to capture more. So those are things just to kind of think about and make sure you're aware of and consider in doing any of your films or any of your projects in the future, is really considering the the tools that you're going to need at your disposal and to make your project successful. We're going to keep working on that. A key component here that is helpful, especially when you have some of these Bezier curves that are coming in at, is that you can bring a node up in here like this and then hold down your Alt button. Sorry, I don't know what it is on Mac, but it's one of these buttons here, and you can create, you can move just one edge of that curve to come around an object like that. It might be the Alt button on Macintosh as well. I'm not 100% certain. But moving these around, if you're needing to kind of get in a little bit closer and things like that, you can do that as well. One thing I'm just going to show real quick as I come in and out of this here is that once we get to a good spot where I'm going to turn my mask off real quick so I can look at it. You know, if I've got just a little bit expansion kind of coming out, I can always add a mask expansion, a negative size of mask expansion, which brings that mask back in a little bit and chops off the edges. We have to be careful with that because it can also look a little too clean. So, you know, be careful how much you take off. One of the other things we can increase too is the amount that's feathered. 1 or 2 pixels, something like that, will give it a little bit of a soft edge, kind of recreating that look there. And those are objects that I have not animated. So because we're going to keep that mask expansion and that mask feather on for the entire time of this clip. Alright, so we have here our mask that we've been working with, and we've got we can go down again into the feather and the expansion, and we'll retract that by about 1 pixel, and we will bring the feather to maybe 1.5, and then in that case, when we look in here, now we've got a little bit of bleed, but it's not terribly much, you know, and it's cleaned out that backdrop a decent amount there. Obviously, again, there's lots of room for improvement on this, and I'll let you guys work on a lot more of that if you when you're cleaning up your clips. But this is just sort of showing you how rotoscoping works. Again, this is a very time-consuming process, something that can take hours of work to do for a single 10-second clip. So it's something that does take time, and you know, it's not usually when you're working on a film and things like that, it's something that you do want to put a lot of effort into. So, you know, making sure that it's as clean as it can possibly be is definitely helpful. And then after this exercise, we'll show you the roto brush technique, which will be a lot more beneficial for certain scenes and certain clips to get a quick mask pull off of that. All right, in the next clip we will go over that, so we'll see you then.